This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
Well, aren't you handsome, Mr. Gregory Rensmag, with your WSF hat and your svelte beard and such?
Well, this is my handsome morning attire. You're not looking so bad yourself there. You're starting to scruff back in.
Yeah. I took it down to the hardwood and then figured, well, it's that time of year. So, it's pretty awesome, man. What a cool podcast, Mr. Aron Snyder, the one and only. Awesome chat with him. And that's on the heels of we're about to drop registration for our Sleuth Conservation and Mountain Hunting Expo. So Kamloops 2023, anyone that knows about our convention and AGM, we're moving to Penticton, British Columbia, February 23rd and 24th. We got an epic weekend planned, rebranded in the sense that we're the Sleuth Conservation and Mountain Hunting Expo, creation of Joe Humphreys. And we're super stoked about this event. We have a lineup through the roof. Friday night keynote. Who is it? Talk to me.
Is Friday night, is that Jules?
Julie
that's
McQueen.
Aaron.
No, Julie McQueen. So the one and only Julie McQueen, the queen of carbon, president of Carbon TV. Julie is a force in the outdoor industry, and she's a woman that has gone above and beyond. And a great keynote. Super stoked. We're not announcing our Saturday night keynote yet. That's coming. Seminars. And, this Mountain Hunting Expo is going to be Western Canada's event to come to if you're a mountain hunter. So let's talk some names. Who's coming?
Oh, man. We got working on a good lineup, but the one and only Mr. Aron Snyder that's on this podcast is coming, and that's a big take for us.
I think Aaron's going to talk gear. It's kind of up to him. We're going to give him the dealer's deck on what he wants to talk about. So we're going to fill that in. So we have our Sheep Hunter University, and we got a lineup. We got a dozen people that are blowing your mind. Adam Foss, Joe Appel, of course, Aron Snyder, who we've already mentioned. Julie's going to do a talk for us, Julie McQueen. We've got Matt Ward. We've got who else is in the lineup? It is long and distinguished. So some of these, I'm a little bit careful here because some of them are tentative and not confirmed. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious in what I say here. But needless to say, Mr. David Martinez, you want to learn on how to photograph? Bring in the best in the business. And, we have an incredible lineup of people in British Columbia. Some of you seen and heard from before. David's coming up. He's going to do a seminar on outdoor photography, and this guy knows photography. So unbelievable. Registration is going to open up in about 3 weeks' time. It'll be open by the end of the month, and we're so stoked. We got so much going on, and our directors are all working their tails off behind the scenes to put together a show like you have never seen before.
I'm excited for this. I can't wait. We're going big or going home, guys. It's going to be great.
Yeah, awesome. So this Mountain Hunting Expo is really focused on the mountain hunting experience. We got a bunch of vendors confirmed that are going to blow your socks off, and we just really can't wait to bring this lineup to Penticton. So Sleuth Conservation Mountain Hunting Expo, that's coming soon. And just a really quick touch base. We have our Women's Shaping Conservation event on November 25th in Richmond, BC. Love to have you out there. You and I are going to be in the house. We're going to do a swap cast with Sheep Fever, Gray Thornton, and Talk is Sheep. And we're going to be having our Women's Shaping Conservation Chair, Rebecca, and Women Hunt, their chair, Renee, on the podcast. We're going to watch the new film, Beyond Bonds. We're going to do a ton of giveaways like we always do. Tickets are on sale on our website. The lineup is extensive. Rachel Attila is going to be there. She's our keynote. Blaine Culkins, who's the conservative hunting and angling caucus chair, is going to be there. It's going to be an epic night. So 2 great events coming up, and there'll be more on that coming down the road. Anything else we need to touch on, buddy?
No, I think we're good. You nailed it. And we'll roll right into this one with the one and only Mr. Aron Snyder.
This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Precision Optics. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Precision Optics, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Good afternoon, Aaron, and welcome to Talk of Sheep. It's awesome to finally connect with you.
No, it's great to be on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, right on. So I know that we never plan these things in the fall because a guy like Aron Snyder is not going to be available in October. But I think we got pretty lucky. We kind of got you in between things. And what do you got on the go? Where are you off to in the next few days here?
I leave tomorrow for South Dakota mule deer. I'm gonna hunt for a couple days, and then I've got some buddies from the military coming, and I'm gonna kind of help guide them for the few days after that. So
Awesome. So anything in the particular looking for? You looking for a 200-inch class buck, or what are you after? You just looking for some meat? What's the plan? I know it's going to
I'm
be big, but
yeah, it's my buddy Ryan Rotier. He owns the area or whatever, and 2 years ago we shot a really big one. Last year we kind of we thought we shot the right one and it wasn't. So anyway, something in the 175, 185 range is kind of what we're looking for. So
yeah, right on. So lots to talk about. I know that there's been a lot going on with you and a lot going on with Kifaru, but before we kind of get into that, I kind of like to. You grew up, I guess, in Oregon, hey, and living in Colorado now. I guess is that where you're at? And
so from Oregon, I lived in Colorado for a long time. The company was in Colorado, and then we moved to Wyoming about a year and a half ago. So I'm in Wyoming right now, as well as the company.
Okay, right on. So with regards to your youth and stuff, you always grew up in the backcountry and hunting, or do you kind of fall into that at a later stage?
No, I've always, my hometown in Oregon's 200 people. So, I wasn't necessarily in the backcountry, but always fishing, and, it's an outdoor community. And then I actually worked on a trail crew team each summer in high school, where we did all the wilderness trails and cleared those trails with crosscut saws and obviously axes and loppers, getting the willow trees out of the way or whatever. That kind of got my passion for backpack hunting going. And at that time, I think I'm getting old. I think minimum wage was $2.95 an hour, right? So it was kind of slave labor in the sense of, as a 14-year-old running a crosscut saw, getting old growth trees out of a trail. But that's where it actually probably started from the most. And then I've always had a passion for the outdoors, but it was amazing to me, the animals I was seeing while we were cleaning those trails off, and what I was seeing. And, I just wrote an article about my time when I was just in BC. Being the most remote you possibly can is just always, enamored me, have been a passion for me. And so that's where it started, though.
So what was your first hunt then? Was it bird stuff, and was it a family thing, or was it you figured that out on your own? You hooked up with some guys in the backcountry? How did that work?
No, my dad kind of hunted, I say that, not to make fun of Oregonians, but, kind of the redneck, clear cut, probably some beer being, drink type hunting. And then, my first actually backpack hunt was for, bench leg mule deer, blacktail, kind of a combo. And I was 14 at the time, I guess would have been 2 years after I got my hunter safety, was probably my first backpack kind of backcountry, hunt. Had no idea what I was doing and couldn't really hit anything. And then, it's grown from there.
So did that early backpacking days with probably not the best backpack, did that sort of inspire you to, because you're the gear guy, like that's your reputation. What fostered that passion? Was it just the outdoors, or was it the gear itself, or how did that come about?
It's kind of strange. Yeah, at that time, as you were probably close to the same age, there wasn't great gear back then. There was a foam pad and a Camp Trails framed, pad. Anyway, it didn't really at that time have, I was raised extremely poor. And, when I say that, I think my dad made $1,600 a month, and there was four of us. And as time went on, it was really after that, when I was more in my young adult phase of buying gear, and I also have a bad name, for speaking maybe the truth or my version of the truth because of this, because I had bought gear off requests, or not requests. I had bought gear off recommendations of maybe TV shows or known personalities or whatever, that was really bad. And it got to a point I got so pissed, and I barely graduated high school. I just like I had a writing career, right? I just was like, someone needs to like speak fairly intelligently about gear. And I started to do that, good, bad, or indifferent, made a lot of people happy, made a lot of people pissed. And then now I try to still do the same thing, meaning, try to speak fairly honestly about gear. Try, you know what I mean? Try to get, whether it's my gear, someone else's gear, as long as it's good gear, get the word out, because it is expensive to buy good gear. And I hate when people buy the wrong gear or bad gear, subpar gear, and waste their money on it. I felt compelled to speak maybe more honestly, or my version of honest, or more intelligently about some of the gear that was out there, some of the downfalls and shortcomings of it. And that's kind of where that got the ball rolling, where now I help design all kinds of gear, from broadheads to boots to, tents, and obviously, Kifaru backpacks or whatever. Whether my version is correct or not, at least I know that I feel comfortable when I say, hey, Kyle, you should get this, it's good, that at least I feel warm and fuzzy about it.
So you talk about all this different stuff that you designed. So, the Kifaru brand is expanded significantly, and you look in the early days and it wasn't quite as broad. Now I know Patrick was an innovator on every level on so many different things, and I find it fascinating. But you yourself, when you talk about broadheads and all these other things, do you work as a consultant, or how does that work? Are you trying to bring it under the Kifaru fold? I know you've got different, Born Primitive now is a brand that's doing really well on itself. Is it under the Kifaru umbrella, or is that beyond it, and as a consultant? How does that work?
Yeah, I guess you could say more of a consultant, and I don't want to make myself sound, cooler than I am. But when whether it be like an example of the Cutthroat 3-blade broadhead with Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear. That's a broadhead Danny Klum, one of the owners of Rocky Mountain Specialty Gear, and I came up with. That was just he and I wanting to come out with a better broadhead. In the case of like the Hanwag Makra boot, they have 3 versions of it. There was issues with one of the versions, and I just gave my advice, helped out in testing, and they have a new version. Some of the things I get paid for, some I don't, some I just want better gear. And so if you have like a component system, I've helped with those. I think like Iron Will has something called the Snyder core, which is a system that Bill with Iron Will and I came up with as far as the component system. There's some things I'm under an NDA, not like it's super secret, but I've sold some designs that I just can't talk about because they want to pretend like they actually came up with it, which is part of business. But some of the things are just, I tested it and gave my approval. I work with Hilleberg on testing some of the different shelters. So some of it, I don't design anything at all. I just go beat it up and say, hey, I would, change this or that. Other things I am actually involved in some of the design and testing. Some of that's bows. Like I got in a little bit of trouble the recent mountain goat hunt I was on. I was using a bow for 2024 and posted photos too early of that bow. So it's a little bit of everything. And some of it I have little to do with other than testing. Other things like, some of the designs I've come up with, those are things like, hey, I need this. I think the people need this. Consumers need this. And that would be more like the Snyder core broadhead system or the Cutthroat 3-blade broadhead. I don't know if that actually answered your question, but
yeah, it did. And the innovation piece is really fascinating to me. And I look at, the stuff that Patrick did in the early days, and his background is incredible, and the different things that, of course, backpacks was a big part of it, but it was, the tent systems and, even rifle scopes and stuff that he was involved in. With you specifically, is that something that was innate in you? Like, did you have the innovative, nature in you, or is that something you learned from Patrick when you came on board?
Man, I am not Patrick Smith. And as much as I respect the guy, we're different in some ways. One of the number one reasons Patrick really liked me was I was spending 150 plus nights in the field while working a full-time job for the most part. And when I wasn't working full-time, meaning I wasn't getting paid so I could spend time in the field, he liked that. but I am much I am different than him. Patrick was never worried about marketing. He was horrible at it. He wasn't even that good at business, but he was far beyond his time when it came to design, right? And he was almost an artist. I mean, and pioneered many things. It was actually funny. I don't want to mention companies' names, but I had to sign an NDA to go to a specific company to look at their, their dark room of designs. Two of the designs, I'm looking at it and I'm like, you copied our shit. And they're like, what? And I'm like, Patrick came up with that in the 90s. I'm like, you just made me sign an NDA for something you're copying from me. And they're like, what? And I'm like, let me pull up the old website. So he was way ahead of his time. And when I say way ahead of his time, some of it was too far ahead. Like some of it just didn't make sense. And so he definitely mentored me and guided me and helped me on things that I was deficient in, or just not maybe I didn't have the mental capacity for a broader spectrum of thought process. And I honestly helped him on some ways in marketing and I don't know when you say the general vibe or flow of the company. He never worried about that. And I'm like, Patrick, if it doesn't look good and you don't feel tough or make people feel badass doing it, it's not going to sell as well. And so it was a good mesh between both of us. And he really helped me out with a lot of, when I say the design side of things, one of the things he was really good at is if you had a good idea, and when I say that off of like field experience, was bringing that to fruition, right? Like running it, to ground and getting to the bottom of it. And he was very good at that.
Now, I heard somewhere along the way, I don't know if it's rumor and innuendo or there's some truth to it, but somebody told me that in the early days, you just came and basically were working for free for him. You just want to get involved. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, when I came from the ground up, I came from no money. Like I didn't start getting paid with him. I was reviewing backpacks. I came in. I loved the suspension he had. I didn't like the bags, and I had designed the Timberline bag and helped test and design a KU bag. Yeah, no, I didn't get paid for free. I did for free, and I mean, I installed buckles on packs. I've done everything at the company, but the thing was at that time, not to bring up age demographics and millennials or whatever, but I was just happy to be in it, right? I was happy to talk to it, in my opinion, a legend in the industry. I was happy to be a part of something that I honestly in my life or my upbringing never thought I would be a part of. And so I didn't care that I worked for free. I got to use cool gear. I was hanging out with a legend. He was teaching me. And so I didn't get paid anything for a year, in the beginning. So.
Well, I think I read somewhere that one of the first bags you tested was the KU bag or something like that. And you were super impressed with the suspension. But one thing that I was a little shocked at, it was like a sub 3 pound bag. And like when I look at Kifaru gear and I run your guys' gear, I don't think ultra lightweight, right? Like if I'm thinking ultra lightweight in the industry, I don't immediately go to you guys. Not that I think you're heavy, but what's the ethos on that and your philosophy on it?
We've got time. So this is funny because I had to give a full-on dissertation to my company of the history of Mystery Ranch, Kifaru, Stone Glacier, Kuyu, the whole nine. So back, and if like I'm familiar with you, so rewind to 2010, 11. It was just Mystery Ranch and Kifaru. And Mystery Ranch was technically heavy and Kifaru was technically lightweight, right? And when I say lightweight, we were 5 to 7 pounds and Mystery Ranch was 10 to 14. And I ran Mystery Ranch. I have a lot of respect for Dana. He's unbelievable. He's a gangster, right? Well, then do you mind me going over this? I think people.
No, this is awesome. This is so critical.
Mark Seacat worked for Mystery Ranch at the time, and I had started to work with Kifaru. Well, at that time, there was guys like, Tom Foss, big sheep hunter, great guy, Adam Foss. They were all on the Mystery Ranch crew, and Kifaru was lightweight. What's the extra 4 pounds? It's more comfortable. Well, then magically, Mark Seacat, great marketing guy, whatever, moved to Mystery Ranch to Stone Glacier because Kurt Roscoe designed the Crux frame. And overnight, Kifaru was too heavy. like literally that fast. And I was like, wait a minute. And so it's kind of like axle to axle bow length, right? Like my version of a short bow is a 35-inch bow because I'm old, right? Or older.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden now a 5 to 7 pack, a 7-pound pack, that's like sleeping with your sister. It's heavy. Like who would run that? Where I'm like, well, wait, hold on. We were too lightweight not long ago. So with the technology, and Kurt Roscoe's an awesome dude, right? With that technology of that he had come out with and things he had changed. At that same time, Patrick was kind of ahead of the game before Stone Glacier. He came out with a 2-pound, 12-ounce, 6,500 cubic inch pack that I hauled an entire mountain goat in. But it was actually too light. It was fragile, right? You got to pay the tollman. So that KU pack, while it was light as air, it wasn't overly durable. Obviously, it was made out of basically parachute material. So I don't want to say I learned my lesson. Obviously, the warranty on that, because it was so fragile, was fairly high because people were, throwing it in the back of 4-wheelers and whatever else. And so we stopped the KU line after a couple years just because you have to have some, I don't want to say common sense, but you have to have some forethought in using a 2-pound, 12-ounce, 6,500 cubic inch bag. At the same time this is going on, I'm skipping a lot of stuff. Seacat and his crew went with Stone Glacier. Obviously I stayed with Kifaru, and they had, I don't know what their first pack was, but I think it was around 4 pounds with the crux frame, in a good system. But it was a straight frame like Mystery Ranch. There was no curvature to it. Where Patrick was always so just hyper focused on the finite details of comfort, right? The infinite load lifter adjustment, the curvature of the stays, things like that. Well, one of the reasons with the company being how it is now, one, growth, right? We kind of maxed out the building we were in. Now we're in a new building, but as far as like diving into the ultra lightweight community again, I wanted to wait on that, which we're doing soon, because that 5 to 7 pound range was like a happy medium. Now, like you said a little bit ago, considered heavy now, but a 5 to 7 pound pack 10, 15 years ago was actually pretty lightweight. Yeah. But now with Exo's pretty light, Stone Glacier's light, Kuyu makes some lightweight stuff. I didn't want to, and I'm not talking down on any other, I didn't want to sacrifice durability and comfort for weight. And that's a negative in some ways, because some people don't care about it. Like, we see guys all the time, they pick one up, pick the other up, and they're like, they don't care about comfort. They're like, this thing's 3 pounds. I want to use that. And so we've spent the last 3 years, which is, I probably shouldn't talk about this, about things coming in 2024 to what I feel is not sacrificing durability or comfort or anything else. It's just as comfortable with the offer now with a substantial loss in weight, but it took technology to catch up to what Patrick and I started, and I'm kind of finalizing with what we're going to be coming out with. So that's a long-winded answer. But
yeah, that was kind of my next question was, how much is technology? There's innovation, that's fine in terms of design, but then just the materials alone, right? So that seems to me a space that's turning so quickly. It's evolving, and there's a finite limit on it because you can only get so much lighter. You can't, pretty soon they weigh nothing. You can't weigh nothing, right? So it's pretty amazing that so how big a deal is it that the technology's improving on the material side of things?
In the case of what I wanted to do, it's very, very big. I mean, we've worked on what I'm talking about again far before, I say the last 3 to 5 years, but Patrick and I were messing around with this a decade ago. And some of it's material, not the frame, but the bag. And, there's different Cuban fiber. I mean, there's a ton of different materials. But again, you always pay a tollman, and that tollman is generally durability, and in construction, there was a saying, you can have quality, quantity, or cost efficiency, and you can have any two of those you want. It's not that much different in backpack hunting, right? You can have extreme lightweight, but you're not going to have durability. All right. You can have durability and fairly decent cost, but you're going to lose, obviously it's going to be heavier, right? So you've got all these different dynamics. Well, to with technology catching up, you're able to actually have kind of the best of all three worlds to a certain degree. And there is a point that I believe you're too lightweight for backpack hunting, especially for outfitters and guides and things like that. Um, and that's a matter of opinion for some. Some people don't mind burning through a bag every 6 months or whatever, but technology has been huge with all of that.
Mm-hmm. I got some more on innovation and R&D, but before we go there, for you, you're doing a 10 to 14 day hunt. What size of pack are you going to run? What cubes are you looking at personally?
If I'm not guiding, I can get away with 68 to 7,200 cubic inches
Okay.
for a 12-day hunt. Guiding, 10,000. I mean, I don't know, man. Like I literally, I was just on my goat hunt with a buddy in BC, and I had a prototype pack, one of the ones we're talking about, and it was big, but man, it was not big enough. And I mean, I say big, it was 6,800 cubic inches, but between the gear and the cape and the meat and everything else, it just wasn't big enough. So, for me, 68 to 72 solo, but when you're guiding 78 plus, like, you just need more size.
Yeah, absolutely. So now on the innovation side of things, this is super intriguing to me. Obviously, you're a big part of it. You've got the forefather of the company that sort of set that tone for you. How much R&D and innovation goes into it besides you? Like, you take you out of the equation, does the innovation department disappear from Kifaru, or is there a lot of people behind the scenes that are coming up with concepts and ideas?
No, there's a lot of people behind the scenes, and we're trying to change that because I don't want to be. I'm trying to retire. When I say that, I don't like social media, right? I don't really like the limelight. We have four. I'm counting on my hands and toes here. 14 well-known and trusted people that we use for testing and R&D. Now, when I say that, just because of the amount of stuff I get to hunt and guide and whatever else, obviously I'm a big part of that, in the sense of, like, if you take me away, we have those guys, but I just flat out get to pack more animals out. What we try to take away from when we come to the round table is I'll have all my thoughts, all my findings hidden. So when we go to those 14, there's a saying for it, but there's nothing I say that is going to be mirrored. They might change their opinion off of what I say. So we'll take my notes and kind of hide them, and we'll get those primary 14, but others, all of their views, and see, are they a mirror image of mine? Is there some differences, things like that? What are the differences? Why are the differences there? Is it because of where they live? Is it because of how they hunt? Things like that. Because you compare hunting and helicopter hunting in the NWT, you don't really need too rugged of gear for that, compared to a guy in BC that's backpacking or horsepacking in, and compared to someone in Colorado, that's backpacking in. Colorado, you don't have a lot of problems with like underbrush and rain. You just have altitude. So their views may be more geared to lightweight. Then you go to a place with underbrush, Alaska, BC, or whatever. Then you're like, okay, well, their gear is probably going to be a little heavier because it just sucks because of underbrush and tag alder and whatever else. And so we get all of that combined and then bounce that off of what I have. And then we start to kind of keep it between the mayo and the mustard of, okay, where are we going to go from here? Is the original design going to change? Should it change? Why is it going to change? Things like that. That's probably confusing, but I hopefully explained that well enough.
Yeah, no, it's a really good explanation. So when I look at your lineup, I'd say Kifaru, and I love your packs, and I'm running the Doll currently. Love the waterproofness of it. With regards to that, is it important to you as an organization or a company to have the diversity in packs? Like, we look at some across the aisle, you look at some of the other pack manufacturers, 3, 4, maybe 5 different packs. With Kifaru, there's a litany of them, and they're all functional and have different. You guys, is that important, and how do you maintain that I guess that portfolio, because it's pretty impressive?
It's important. We are going to slim it down some, and that's just, when I say slim it down some, there's always going to be a need for I call them a weight weenie, an ounce counting ultralight crowd. So we're always going to have that crowd. And then you're going to have the intermediate crowd, which is more kind of my crowd, right? And so let's say our current lineup, you have the hoodlum is kind of an intermediate, moderate weight, not lightweight, not super heavy. The doll is kind of going from moderate to more lighter weight. What we're trying to do now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a definitive line of here is ultralight, right? And then we have the intermediate, and then we have more like, let's say, a fulcrum. It's got 7,000 straps and it's made for like portaging and moose head, whatever. We're trying to slim it down, but still have 3 tiers. When I say 3 tiers, it's always not confusing. It's always what it is a pain in the ass. When you're getting ready to come out with something, you're going to have, it's like the New York Taxi Cab Drivers Association as far as giving advice. You go to a guy that hunts the Wasatch Front or something, he's going to have all these different ideas, and in his mind or her mind, the best ideas. And it's like, well, dude, go hunt moose in the Yukon or whatever. Your views will change. So we try to hit all 3, but we are going to slim it down a little bit and make it less confusing, right? But there's always going to be those 3 lines, because to me, it just goes against the grain to not offer something for everyone.
Yeah, I love the diversity of it, and I love the functionality of it. You can buy all the different sizes of pouches and everything. It's just super highly adaptable, and it's an addiction, man. You start buying this shit and you can't stop. It's like, fuck, I gotta buy some more of this stuff. And but it's one of the cool things I love about it. It's so highly functional.
Well, and it's funny, you use the doll, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I was just in northern BC, and I had went on my own hunt. I helped out on a bunch of hunts. In the lower 48, the Nalgene bottle pockets are very much a pro. Well, up there, they're like, they cut needles and leaves get in there, whatever else. And it's like, okay, well, again, the 3 tiers, right? You're never going to make everyone happy, but we're trying to narrow it down to make it simpler for everyone and make everyone happy. And so it's like, well, in one view of it is, well, you can always just empty them out. Like, it's not like 7 pounds of leaves, right? It's like, a couple ounces. But when you try to, you can appreciate this. If you went to an outfitter in British Columbia, an outfitter in Arizona, right? And an outfitter in, let's say, Wyoming, all of them are the smartest guys in the world and know exactly what everybody wants. But they don't. They just know what they want in their demographic and in their area. So again, that's where that 3 tiers comes from, is trying to make all 3 of them happy.
Yeah, right on. So, the PAX goes without saying, but you guys are not a one-trick pony, and you've done a great job on shelters, stoves. And so now talk a little bit about how the Born Primitive Outdoors evolved and sort of, is it acquisition? Is it company acquisition, or is it in-house stuff?
No, actually it's totally separate. So how that happened, I do, without getting myself in trouble here, I do training with different portions of the military, survival and escape and evasion, and easy. Sorry, I got 2 giant dogs. I actually have 5, but sorry about that, man.
That's all good.
So I do military training with different different tier 1 groups. During some of that training, I met some individuals that were friends with a Bear Handlin, owner of Born Primitive, the CrossFit clothing line. Bear was a Navy SEAL, and they knew he had wanted to start an outdoor clothing line, and introduced us. He and I got along really well. And Kifaru was also looking at the same time of starting a clothing line. And honestly, with the growth we've had, it was something that probably would have been mentally a killer for me anyway. So I partnered up with Born Primitive with Bear Handlin to start the outdoor clothing line. And it's kind of hand in hand with Kifaru, but it is completely separate. Now, we sell Born Primitive on the Kifaru, website and things like that, but that is actually straight through Born Primitive and Bear Handlin. I'm obviously a partner in that, but that was a lot of things, a tactical line with Born Primitive, an outdoor line, a campfire line. He has CrossFit. So it's not actually through Kifaru. We just kind of are partnered, but it's through Bear Handlin and Born Primitive. And Bear started because he's a CrossFit freak. He's like a freak of nature physically. And he had started a CrossFit clothing line a long time ago, and he again wanted to start an outdoor line. He hooked me up with his designer, and then we designed all the stuff for BP Outdoors.
Right on. Very cool. So now when you guys look at, next steps in the organization, and obviously not looking for any trade secrets here, and I know there's only so much you can talk about, and we'll get into the outfitter side of things in a minute. But before we go there, on a product perspective, do you see the Kifaru line expanding, or do you guys stick in the lane that you guys are really thriving in?
No, we're definitely expanding. I mean, you have to figure when I first started, I can't go over exact numbers, but we've gained from when we started by millions, right? And so some of the lack of expansion was just straight bandwidth and size of the building. Obviously, the new building's like 60,000 square feet in Wyoming. Some of that also is there is a fine line. Obviously, we're made in America, 100% everything. And as I understand it, for the most part anyway, we are the last ones. Everything we make, well, except our hats and T-shirts, those aren't made in America. But needle, thread, buttons, labor, everything is in the U.S. There are certain things you cannot make in the United States. And when I say that, we just are not good at it. As Americans, we're not teaching home ec anymore, and sewing and things like that. So finding sewers that are able to sew certain things is difficult, and then the material, right? So when you get into different shelters and things like that, it is very difficult to sew those in the U.S. So one of the things we're really working hard on now, and I say working hard on, there's designs I have for different shelters that we may have to go overseas, whether that's Europe or Asia or whatever, because it can't be done here. And we'll probably get a little bit of a black eye over that, and I understand that. But the thing is it wasn't that we could do it and chose not to. You just can't do it in the U.S. And that may be that we sew it here, but it's not with American-made materials, and that's just because we don't offer them. So when you look at expansion, we're definitely expanding on the American-made side, but some of the things we're expanding on are things that we just cannot make in the U.S.
Did I read somewhere that you guys actually have employee housing and stuff like that too? Is that part of your business plan?
Correct. Yep.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, you know what that is? A pain in the ass is what that is. We and I say that I love that we can help out employees and things like that. In the community that we're in now, my business partner is one of the greatest humans. His name's Chad Shumway. He's one of the greatest humans around. He looked at it, one, from a business perspective, but two, he's building, my wife's a realtor. He's building housing now for potential or future employees at Kifaru as we expand. So again, a great human. He's going to make some money off it, obviously, but his primary hope and goal was to have housing for current and future employees as we expand.
So when you talk about expanding your product lines, and we talked about staying in your lane, what areas, and again, not looking for trade secrets, but what areas do you see that could, in your mind, need some more support in the industry? Where's some niche markets that could be filled? And if you can't go into the details, that's fine. I totally get it. But
no, I can, and it'll be a little bit broader than that. So one thing we've actually kind of, even though Patrick pioneered the ultralight shelters and backpackable stoves, we've kind of fallen behind on that. So catching back up with that is one of them. The other one's going to be dual wall, 4-season, 3-season, ultra lightweight shelters, bivy sacks, things of that nature. The tactical line with some of the different friends that I have and things like that, that's going to be another portion that we are releasing some of that in 2024. But the tactical line, when I say that kind of crosses over. Some of it's going to be hunting and tactical, but the tactical line and hunting line on the more rifle carrying weapon systems. That's going to be expanded on. Some of the other things are going to be simple stuff, dry sacks, but very, when I say dry sacks, you can get a dry sack anywhere, but applied use dry sacks, applied use waterproof backpacks, things like that. And this goes, with us, we have the backpacking community, the everyday carry community, these travel bags, the hunting community, the prepper community, the doomsdayers, the guys burying their shit in their backyard, and then, the backpacking, and then tactical. So that's a lot of expansion and growth and things we're working on. And the biggest thing that I've learned, and I've tried to learn from people I've worked with, is you can grow too much and it is hard to keep the train on the tracks at times. And so we have dialed back purposefully on a lot of that to just make sure that we can keep up and do it correctly. Because too much growth sometimes can end a company. So we've been working on, kind of not going too fast on some of that stuff.
So when we talk about that sort of thing, and COVID was a freaking mess with everything that went down, and how much did that play a role in sort of getting the product you wanted to consumers, or how, was some of that growth oriented too, like just trying to get everything in place for that? Or
man, being American made, it didn't really change much.
All right.
It was actually, man, I say comical, but if you read between the lines, you learned real quick where some companies, whether that was archery or backpacking or whatever, where they said they were made in the USA, if they were having problems with materials and products, they probably weren't made in the USA. So on our case, the number one thing was foam. There was issues with getting foam. In our case, we just upgraded the foam. We went with a higher quality foam, and that was something we could get easier than the foam we are currently using, which is better for the consumer. But it didn't really affect, well, I tell you where it affected us was we learned who's lazy and who doesn't want to work real quick. Because, it was hard to find employees because it was like they were paying you to stay home. We learned who wanted to work, who didn't, who was there for the company. But, as far as actually getting materials and things like that, it didn't affect us that much. But again, we are actually made in the USA. So we were getting everything from the US. There wasn't a container floating around waiting to dock. We already had it. So.
Yeah, phenomenal. So the latest and greatest is freaking Kifaru Outfitters. That's pretty awesome, dude. Let's hear the skinny on the whole thing. The whole evolution. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, it's fairly simple. My business partner, and I'm not that involved in the outfitter portion of it. But when I say that, like my business partner had asked me about buying, it's Okanagan Outfitters. The amount of tags, the price, things like that. The person that we were going to partner with, and what I thought about it. And I was like, hey man, I mean, it makes sense financially. I know the numbers in some of those areas, they seem to be pretty good. And so this is the simplified answer to that question. So he purchased Okanagan Outfitters, and he's purchasing other areas as well. There's not that, we'll do, we have, bighorns, callies, mountain goats, mountain lion, lynx, bobcat, mule deer, elk, black bear, moose, probably forgetting something in there. And so my business partner looked at it from two things. One is obviously a business portion of this, and then the other portion is obviously, promotion or whatever else you want to look at it. Will it help Kifaru, the backpack company? And so I'm simplifying this, but he bought the area, bought all the tags and everything else, and it's gone really well so far. And again, he's looking at buying, I think he already has some other areas, not in BC, but other parts of the United States as well.
So with that, you were up guiding this year, weren't you, in the Okanagan?
No, I was not. And I wasn't actually technically guiding. So I was actually just a really helpful hand. Next year will be different. I'm getting my long-term, not residency, but work visa. But that's actually through North River Outfitters that I'll be helping out there. Not Okanagan. And that's in northern BC with North River, Ron and Maria Nemechek.
Mhm.
That's who I was with up there. So
Okay. So when you killed your goat, that's where you were hunting?
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. So let's talk a little bit about that. That's a freaking huge billy you killed.
Yeah, no, it was cool. That kind of started with Bart Lancaster had asked me to help out. He and I and Clay, the whole Lancaster family and I are friends. He had asked me if I wanted to help out, on a hunt when I had booked my goat hunt, if I wanted to help out on a different one. And then, not make myself sound better than I am, Ron and Maria learned that I'm capable of mountain hunting in that environment and asked, like, hey, do you want to hang out and stay and help? And I was like, well, I don't have a guide license up there. And they're like, no, we have plenty of licensed, guides and everything else. Like, it doesn't seem like you have to go back to work. And I'm like, no, I don't. And I love it up here. So if I can stay, I'll definitely stay. So I helped out on, different sheep hunts and goat hunts and things like that. So
Awesome. So
but
tell me about your goat.
How'd you? They did get me. We're getting me my work visa and guide license, so I will be guiding for them next year. So
That's awesome. So how many trips do you think you're going to be there the whole fall and do the whole thing, or?
yeah, I'll definitely. I would imagine I'll do 2 or 3, sheep hunts and probably 6 or 7 mountain goat hunts, couple moose hunts, caribou. For me, that area, especially on the mountain goat side of things, it's one of the more remote areas I've been, and it's just built for the way that I am built mentally and what I like to do. I like the idea of being dropped off on a lake or a creek somewhere and hacking it out on my own for 10 to 12 days and that kind of thing. So it was definitely like, realistically, and I told my wife this, if I died in a plane crash with Ron or got eaten by a grizzly, I would die happy. Like, I love that place and what I do up there, and they're great people. So
Very cool. So now from a business perspective, when you take your gear up there and you're demoing the new pack this year or testing it, not demoing it, are you, is that something that maybe you'll bring up half a dozen, you'll give them to all the guides, you guys will take them, use them every day and talk about the downfalls, the pros, 100%. Cons?
Yeah, that's kind of an added bonus of doing that. So this year when I came up, I had given Miguela, that's Ron and Maria's daughter, and Gaetano, some of the newer stuff. I was using it because, that's the best way to test it. Pack out, 8 or 9 goats and a couple moose or whatever. And then you get feedback from different perspectives of what people like or dislike, because everybody's got their own, views or whatever. So, that's a big part of it, because you can get stuck in your own little world about what's right and wrong and what makes sense. And when I say right and wrong, what gear is going to work, or what design, what pockets. And so it's always good to be on the ground doing it and getting feedback from people doing it as well. So
that's awesome. How did the pack work? Are you happy with it? Is it?
Oh yeah, it was good. The only negative side is when I went from hunting to I say guiding again. I wasn't guiding, but helping. It wasn't big enough, right? So that was the first thing, was like, okay, we need a bigger version of this, which we knew, right? But with the full system, when are you going to post this podcast?
Possibly next week, actually. I think next Wednesday.
Okay, without going into too much detail, then
I can delay it though if you want.
No, you're good. With the full system I was using, I was very pleasantly surprised and happy. And when I say that, we knew it was good. We'd been using the system and everything else, but until you have 125 pounds going down, shale cliffs and everything, there's always things, whether it's durability or comfort or whatever. It was when I left doing all of that, I was very happy and excited that, okay, we had made the right decision. We didn't the materials and the fabrics and things like that we chose were the right ones. So yeah, it was good. And again, next year will be the same thing. I mean, there's nothing better handing 6 or 8 packs out to different guides and outfitters and you doing it yourself. That's the best testing you can get. I mean, a lot of companies, and I'm not mentioning any names or whatever, but they don't test as thorough as I feel they probably should. And so that gives us a lot of testing up to that, and then a full season of testing before we even think of coming out with it. So,
yeah, right on. With regards to, you guys do such a good, you personally, but Kifaru in general does such a great job on the university side and education and your videos and that component. Did you do any of the stuff of that in the field on this one, or is it all in-house? You do it within a controlled environment?
as far as which part?
Well, like videos talking about the new gear or any of that stuff, when
No,
obviously you haven't released anything yet, but
no, we did a decent amount while I was in the field, and honestly, some of the failures that we changed, like, there's a couple things that we filmed that I was like, well, this didn't pan out. We're changing this, and this is why. It's because it's always good, in my opinion, way. You're not going to always knock, and not everything's gold, right? You're not going to knock everything out of the park. And so talking about, well, this is why we did this is why it didn't work, and this is what we're changing to. The foam that we had in the first shoulder straps seemed, with fishing trips in Wyoming, some minor stuff, like it was a good idea. And then in the first 2 weeks of being up there, we swapped it out to a upgraded foam, and it made sense. And now we know that, okay, somebody else doing that is going to, not have any issues, because I had just done it with other guides and outfitters. So,
yeah, right on. I have to say that my Kifaru pack's like a bloody warm hug. I put it on, it just feels right. It's like putting on that sweater. It always feels good. Heavy or light, to be honest. It still hurts like hell when it's heavy, but
yeah.
With North River Outfitters, so if you go up and are able to guide and that all comes together, which I'm sure it will, that's got to be something that they can mark up. Like if you go on a mountain goat hunt, or you can go one with you, it's got to be worth more. Are they going to use that as a marketing opportunity? I can't see why they wouldn't, because there's got to be people that would die to go hunting with you.
Man, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've become really good friends with Ron and Maria. And talking about different pricing. The one thing, they don't bring bow hunters. Okay. And it's like, hey, next year that's going to change, because I'm going to be bringing, bow hunters up. But I don't know. I would not. I mean, I wouldn't want people to pay more to come hunt with me, I mean, whatever, if they want to tip me, great, but I mean, the biggest thing on my end, which is weird, like I'd work for free. Like they were laughing, because when I was helping out, I'm not the best by any stretch of, judging, sheep or goats or whatever, but I've got a fairly good, handle on it. So I was working for free the entire time. And when I say working, I just wanted to go. And it was hard for them to wrap their head around it first. And I'm like, look, if I go back, I'm just in an office doing shit I hate. So I'll just keep going out. And, again, not being a guide or whatever else, it was interesting for them, because for me, I just loved being that remote and helping people and seeing the animals or whatever. So I wouldn't feel comfortable. I can't say let Ron and Marie can do what they want. I wouldn't feel comfortable with them charging more if somebody wanted to come hunt with me. Now, if that person wanted to tip me more, that's up to them. But, I mean, those hunts are expensive enough already. And, it's not, I mean, it's weird, because like mountain goats is a little different. I'm really good. Like I'll put myself up against anyone with mountain goats judging and things like that. I feel comfortable with that. But, other animals and things, there's tons of guys better. It's not that difficult. You keep the person happy, you keep them fed, right? You find them an animal, make sure they get back or whatever. It's just, man, I just love being out there and being with cool people. So I'm long-winded on this, but I wouldn't let him do that if I had anything to say about it.
Awesome. So you guys, you were on a couple stone sheep hunts this fall up there too. I've seen there was a few as well, eh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was.
There was a couple nice rams. That one ram was cranker. I don't know what did he end up. Did you get a score on him at all? The bigger one. I can't think of who you were hunting with on that one, but
one's 170 something on one of them. And I was on a few sheep hunts. 164 was one, and 172 was another. They've got decent sheep up there. The thing with me that was surprising was the goats. Honestly, the mountain goats up there, I was trying to wrap my head around. I'm like, I told Ron, I was like, dude, you're fucking up. Like, your goats are crazy. And in Ron's mind, he just didn't think They were. I'm like, dude, I killed a Boone and Crockett goat on my first day, first stock, right? And there was I didn't even shoot the biggest one, arguably, right? I wanted to shoot the wide one. The goat I shot was 8 3/4 wide. That's pretty wide for a goat. The other one was a little bit longer, but and then I was on other goat hunts. We shot a 52 3/4, a couple 52s. And I had passed up a couple goats that were probably bigger than, the one the guy ended up shooting. When I say we, whatever, then the one the client ended up shooting. And so I was like, man, Ron, I don't think you realize what you have for mountain goat hunting here. And so I was like, man, I would really focus more on mountain goats than anything, because they're just, the world record wasn't shot that far away from where they're at. And again, on some of those hunts, I don't want to say the world record could be shot out of there, but I would bet next year there will be some 53 to 55-inch goats pulled out of that area.
Yeah, they keep threatening. I know Justin pretty well, who killed the new record, and I keep hearing look at the Chadwick, right? Will it ever be broken? Maybe, maybe not, probably not. But they're with the goats, people think that it's going to be broken. It's going to be broke soon. So it's interesting.
Man, I get, whether it's the Chadwick ram or that goat, when you fly over that whole entire area, right? And when I say area, I fly from Smithers up. Mm-hmm. A lot of that area is untouched. Mm-hmm. And I'm even a pipe hitting hardcore dude with food airdropped. It is untouched. And there's places I can legitimately say I think no man has touched before that I was at this year. Mm-hmm. And so you can't say it's impossible to break the Chadwick record. Yeah, do I think that I'll be the one with the guy? No. But I'm saying that there is 10 square miles of area that will never be seen by man other than from a plane. It's not impossible. The world record, I'm with you. Or the Chadwick ram. All it takes is the willingness to try, right, to get there. So.
Okay, so you have one hunt and that's it. You can only ever hunt one species again. What are you going to go kill?
No, mountain goat by far. Well, I say mountain goat by far. Mountain goat and then mule deer. I never got into the sheep thing, right? I've been fortunate enough hanging out with the Lancasters to be on doll hunts and desert hunts and bighorns, and I've helped out buddies on bighorn hunts and just did some stones. But man, I'm not taking away from sheep at all. But one thing that comes along with the sheep bug is money. It's expensive. Yeah. And so I've always been enamored by mountain goats. So I would say mountain goats is the first one, and then mule deer the second. I've hunted and killed a ton of elk. But oddly enough, mountain goat and mule deer being the two, right? Whitetails out of a tree stand, later in life I've started hunting them. I don't get typewriter leg or anxiety or nervous on the ground. Man, put me in a tree stand and have footsteps coming from behind me. So, kind of weird, but just starting whitetail hunting late in life. But yeah, if I had to pick one, and my wife is super chill. She's cool. I told her, I was like, if I fell off a cliff on a mountain goat hunt and died, I would have died happy. I love hunting mountain goats and being in those type of areas. So yeah, definitely goats is my number one.
Is that goat you arrowed last month? Is that your biggest goat to date, or did you kill something bigger?
No, that's my biggest. I don't know what it'll dry out at, but over 50. I think it was 51 4/8. What it was green. It basically has no deductions, but it was actually funny because I don't know that I shot the biggest, but I shot the one I wanted. So literally right after I shot it, Bart was giving me crap because I yelled over. I was like, was the other goat bigger? And he's like, of course it was. And I don't know that it was bigger or not, or it was definitely, it stood in front of me at 28 yards. It was definitely longer. But the goat I shot was 10 5/8 on one side, 10 1/2 on the other, 5 7/8 spaces. Big goat. But the biggest goat I had shot up until that point was 48 and change. And I've helped out and guided and whatever, a bunch of different goats, but it was when we spotted the goats, when I went on, there was two 50+ inch goats to choose from. It didn't matter which one I shot. I was a winner either way. But that wide of a goat, I think it was 8 3/4, doesn't happen very often. And so I really wanted the wide goat, and that's the one I ended up getting. Whether it was bigger or not, I didn't care. So yeah, it was cool.
Beautiful goat for sure. Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. It's fantastic. So, and Aron, awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah. And that it was 10 or 11, but we killed a 13, 14-year-old goat, this season with North River as well.
Okay.
And I think I saw a nanny that was 15 inches and probably like 16 years old when I was up there. It looked like a unicorn or whatever, it was crazy. So yeah. And again, like coming from the lower 48, there is so much pressure everywhere you hunt, right? Like you don't have, like when I say downtime, you see a big animal, there's probably 6 other people watching it, where whether it's the NWT or the Yukon or BC or whatever, you don't have as much or any pressure. And it's new for a guy like me, because you're backpacking in, you've got outfitters, you've got public land hunters or whatever, where up there you're like, well, let's just let it sit. We'll shoot it in the morning. Yeah, you don't say that shit down here. Like you're on it. So it's a whole different world up there as well.
It completely changes the perspective. I just had a dull sheep hunt I was on. I got a draw in BC, and we flew into an area, and we knew there was no one there. There's only one place to go in, and there was no tracks. And we just, we ended up killing a sheep opening morning, but we literally had the place ourselves for endlessly, and it just completely changes the experience. Like it's, it's so, and that's what I love about sheep hunting, goat hunting, and there's still some pressure. Don't get me wrong, I get it, but it's certainly not like some of the other species.
Yeah, no, I mean, I with Ron and Maria, like they were laughing because they were like, "Hey, will you keep guiding for us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, till my legs fall off and don't work." And they couldn't. Being up there for so long, I'm like, "You guys don't understand. Down here, it is a different world." And when I say down here in the lower 48, and I'm not saying like, one's harder or better, or whatever, but there's more pressure down here. And I'm like, guys, like Ron, when you drop me off, I'm not going to see anyone ever. And I may be stepping foot on places no man has stepped before. And I may see an animal that's never seen a human. I do that down here. That big animal has probably seen 1,754 humans, right? I'm like, it's just different. And so for me, I wish I would have been able to go up there earlier in my life, because it's just a pleasure for me to be there. It's just amazing. So
yeah, it's untouched piece of paradise for sure. We're pretty fortunate. So
yeah.
Okay, a couple things before. What's next on your list for hunts after mule deer? You got anything else going on?
Yeah, so I might go up to Alberta for mule deer in the Medicine Hat area.
That's my hometown.
Oh, well, I'll call you when I'm up there. I might after that go to BC for elk and mule deer, depending on schedule. I've got some other things that might pop up. I've got a buddy that lives near me that his dad has a mule deer tag here in Wyoming. That's an amazing tag. And then I'm going to hunt whitetail in Oklahoma, Texas, area after that. My buddy Scotty Campbell, he's the guy that I do the Outdad outfitting guiding stuff with. And then, that kind of goes through December, and then January, February, and March, we're balls to the walls with Outdad. And when I say that, we do mule deer as well. I think we have 16 mule deer clients, but the Outdad stuff is like consumes January, February, and March for me. Like we bring in, I think 18 ram hunters and probably 40 ewe hunters for that. And so that keeps us really busy January, February, and March. So
how many of those will you guide personally?
Too many. Oh man, we have a couple really good, guides. Ryan Barnwell is a guy that he's come in and helped out a ton. But man, I would say I'll probably do 4 or 5, ram hunters, and man, I don't know, 30 ewe hunters probably. And then there's guys like, if you called, we have other properties. If you're like, hey, I want to go on a Outdad hunt, I can fit it in. I'll haul ass to another property and come in. So I think last year I did 5 ram hunters and probably 18 ewe hunters.
Wow.
The year before was more than that, but my buddy Scotty, he's the one that kind of operates that whole thing. And I say that like obviously, he's like a brother to me as well. But I show up and literally I'm like a soldier. I'm like just whatever we got, send me out. But that area, like we do mostly bow hunts, right? And so when a gun hunter comes in, it's kind of like a break, right? Because we do so much high archery, and so the archery hunters take a little bit longer. But yeah, anyway, January, February, March, I'm doing Aoudad. So
awesome. And then you get a few weeks off, and then you do some spring bear too on top of that, or
man, I've shot so many bears now. I don't even go. Like we were supposed to go to actually Alberta. I was supposed to go last year and the year before. I sent Anders. He kind of runs actually Kifaru, instead. But we were trying to figure it out. Man, I think I've shot 24 black bears, and so
wow.
like it's not like super high on my list. Honestly, now I'm going to get made fun of for saying this. I hunt turkeys more than I do spring bear. And then I do a lot of fishing. Like we do high country fishing. So we'll backpack in 6, 8, 10 miles and do a lot of high country fishing. And I also shoot tournaments. And so like 3D archery tournaments or what else. So that takes up some time as well. So
awesome, man. Well, it sounds like a pretty full lineup. So how does that function in terms of succession planning for Kifaru? What does that look like for the company? And do you see yourself increasing those guide days and days in the field? But what does succession planning, I guess, look like for the organization in terms of your involvement? You're still a young guy. You got a lot of years left ahead of you, but do you see yourself fading into the sunset or going hard?
I'm fading into the sunset to a certain degree. So Anders, Christian, he pretty much runs the company. I mean, I think a lot of people think I run the company. I don't run the company. Anders does. So as it's working out now, and he's crushing it, the more he's doing, I'm going to do like seminars, write articles, classes, things like that, shoot tournaments, meet and greets, guide, hunt myself. So I'm not going to be like totally out of the limelight, so to speak, but definitely as far as like the day-to-day operation of Kifaru, that'll be Anders and the crew. Sorry, crazy dogs. That'll be Anders and the crew. And then, yeah, I'm just going to guide, hunt, seminars, classes, things like that. We do a lot of, when I say a lot of, we have done a few, and we're going to expand a lot of like land nav courses, survival courses, things like that, with my military buddies. And so that's something else Kifaru is expanding on. So I don't know if you ever seen me do like glassing camps and land nav camps. So in 2024, we're actually doing full on land navigation courses, as far as actually using a compass and a map and plotting out points and things like that. So I'm not going to fade away, but I'm definitely going to fade into what I want, as time goes on.
That's awesome. Well, we got to get up here to BC and get you doing some stuff up here, Aaron. We love your products. We love what you guys are doing. Love to have you more involved. Been talking lots to Omer about that, and anything we can get you up here doing. We just love you to be part of British Columbia. And now that you're guiding up here and have the outfitting territory, that's we can maybe leverage that a bit too. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think Omer asked me to speak at I think I'm speaking now. I'm not sure if that's set in stone at your banquet, if I'm not mistaken. He had asked me to do that, and I'm more than happy to. So
yeah, absolutely. We've been marketing it, so I guess you're doing it whether you like it or not. Now that Omer's committed you, so no, we're totally stoked about it. It's in Penticton, which is cool because that's your new guide area. And good part of the world, and everyone's super stoked about you coming up. And but anyway, I've taken a lot of your time today. I know you're going hunting tomorrow. You got a bunch of stuff to get together for that, and just appreciate all you do. And really stoked to see you up here this winter, and wish you all the best this fall. Certainly on your mule deer hunt here next week.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, obviously, whatever you guys need. I mean, it's funny with Omer. Not to lengthen this out. I knew Omer from forums from like 12 years ago. And he and I have obviously become like great friends ever since then. But no, I'm super happy to support you guys in whatever way I can. And I'm glad, it's going to be great to go over there and speak and hang out with you guys. So yeah, I appreciate everything and appreciate being on the podcast. So.
Well, we're super stoked. And was he Rubber Fist on the forums that you were on?
Yep.
Because that's his handle. And shit. I back in the day, my first, high end optic I bought. It was I was on one of the forums, and Rubber Fist was talking about all this stuff, and he was selling Saguaro stuff, and I'm like, oh shit, okay. So I started looking around, and he had some pretty competitive pricing, and then I'm like, and then I got his contact info and reached out to him, and that's how marketing was done back in the day. This was literally 20 plus years ago, and so all of a sudden I buy this $3,500 spotter, and I'm all stoked, and then I look, and it's from Aroma Foods. I'm like, Aroma Foods. I'm like, who the hell is? And I'm like, oh my god, I just sent somebody $3,500 to some imposter off the internet. And, I finally found Aroma Foods on Swarovski's website. Of course, he's rebranded since then, but yeah, it was scared the hell out of me for a bit there. I thought I'd bought rubber dog shit from someone in China or something. So,
well, has he ever told you how we met?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I can tell you now, or he can tell you. It's up to you.
No, I want to hear it. Tell the story.
So
please.
It was on a Bow site, which is a internet forum where a bunch of people live in their mom's basement, talk shit back and forth to each other, right? So he went and he posted an entire story of him going on a mountain goat hunt and killing a mountain goat solo. And I think his shot was like 71 yards at the goat. And I didn't know Omer or Rubber Fist at all. So I'm like reading the story, right? And I'm reading the comments. And of course, like the peanut gallery pops in, like he's unethical, he's a piece of shit. And I'm like, so I got on there and was like, guys, like he went in solo and killed a mountain goat and packed it out on his own. And 71 yards for an accomplished bow hunter is not that far. And so I'm like battling it out, like with internet, heroes or whatever, for Omer, and I don't know who he is, and that's the short version of how he and I met, and we've been friends ever since. So that's like the short version of that. So
yeah, that's awesome.
That was like 2009.
Is that right? Yeah, I think I read that story, and he's obviously gifted orator, right, or storyteller. It's a hell of a story.
Yeah, he's just, Omer's a good dude no matter what. And I think he rebranded Precision Optics. We sell good Kifaru packs through him. So for me, he's a great guy, great company. He's just a good dude. So I'm glad that whatever way I can help him out, that I'm always fully supportive of him. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's definitely a good egg for sure, and we're certainly lucky to have him as one of our conservation partners. So awesome, Aron. Well, thank you so much. We're stoked to see you in February, and look forward to it, and appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.